Day 1196 of the Ukrainian War Map, also known as the Russo-Ukrainian War. Juzzie here, and today is another update as I take a simplified and down-to-earth approach to some of the most important happenings on the ground in Ukraine. So starting off, we'll take a look at those Russian losses, as currently Russia sits on more than 990,000 military personnel losses, representing an additional 1,100 in the past day. As for hardware losses, 7 tanks, 8 APVs, 48 artillery, 1 air defense system, plus a late entry to the list with the addition of 12 aircraft. But back to that in just a moment, because headed straight into the map now, as in the early hours of this morning, Ukraine's SBU pulled off another audacious strike, this time at the Crimean Bridge, and not just taking the battle to the air, but also underwater, where after months of careful prep, SBU agents placed over a ton of explosives, not an expression, 1,100 kilograms specifically, at the bridge's seabed supports. At 4:44 AM, the first blast went off, throwing Russian engineers into panic as the iconic crossing teetered into critical condition, as per some Russian sources. Now, for this event, reports are swirling that it might have been the mysterious Marichka, Ukrainian underwater drone, boasting a range of 1,000 kilometers, and making the bridge's underwater defenses look like a bad joke. Even Russian sources admitted, quote, "Someone is breaking through the barriers," and saying so as the attacks were ongoing, with these fresh explosions rattling occupier nerves. Dozens of aerial UAVs from Ukraine also saw their way through the northwest of the Crimean Peninsula overnight, headed in the direction of Kerch, putting Russian defenses off balance, but the real threat lurked from beneath. The SBU released video footage showing the explosion near one of the bridge's support pillars, underscoring the attack's impact. Now, the Kerch Bridge is still in use, despite compromised structural integrity. The recent attack damaged underwater supports, but Russian authorities resumed traffic, likely prioritizing logistics over safety. And so, Ukraine's knack for headline-making ops keeps us on the edge of our seats, and certainly for the Kremlin too, where it appears that Ukraine has had enough of the peace talks stalling and, their lack of progress, finding other ways to make Russia act in good faith instead. Then to take a look at other events inside of Russian-controlled regions, shall we say, where a major fire broke out in Troysk, 40 kilometers southwest of Moscow, as a construction market was burning. The preliminary barrels of paint are said to be the cause. We're surely all getting justifiably suspicious at this stage about the amount of paint barrels listed as the cause of so many fires in Russia every month now. Also in Moscow, but not to be seen anywhere, as there's been no confirmed public statements from Putin since Ukraine's drone attacks on Russian airbases occurring on Sunday, June 1st. Putin seemingly living up to his name of Bunker Boy, and for potentially good reason, on concerns of unsecured trucks traveling within 5, 10, 20 kilometers, even more from the Kremlin, leading to a very notable absence from Vladimir Putin himself until he can be certain that vehicles passing the Kremlin do not pose a threat to his own personal safety. Then moving 400 kilometers directly east of Moscow, where an explosion ripped through the Zavulk motor plant in Russia's Nizhny Novgorod region after a truck loaded with chemicals detonated inside a workshop, quickly sending flames racing up the factory roof. Russian telegram channels lit up with reports confirming the blast and massive fire at the engine factory, a key site producing gas and diesel engines, including those destined for vehicles on the front lines and in the Russian military itself. So based on these reports, and many others just like it, there appears to be a great deal of internal sabotage going on inside of Russia, and safe to say this won't be the last. Now headed back west, as for those weekend airbase strikes, 12 confirmed losses, with most of the destroyed aircraft being Russia's long-range strategic missile carriers. So far, 16 have been confirmed damaged or destroyed, including 6 Tu-95s and 4 Tu-22s destroyed. Now the A-50 radar plane was also likely damaged, which is troublesome given it's believed to be their only remaining operational A-50 AWACS radar plane, due to out of the 9, 2 were converted to submarines, another 1 damaged and never repaired, with the remainder likely serving as spare part replacements. As such, these latest airbase strikes, or not so latest anymore, could leave Russia without any functioning A-50s. Losing these planes would seriously hurt Russia's ability to track Ukrainian forces, coordinate strikes, and protect ground units, making its air defenses and overall operations much weaker. Next into the main map, with unconfirmed reports that tell of Ukrainian Special Operations Forces having conducted their first air operation of this magnitude in some time. So, operating Black Hawk helicopters, they were said to have carried out a series of cross-river attacks on Russian troop concentrations and supply depots along the Kupiansk axis, clearing those positions. Then headed further down the map, where eastern Ukraine looks like a World War I Western Front in color. Near Chasiv Yar, the enemy advanced near the northeastern outskirts to the central front lines of the town. Then to Pokrovsk, although a little bit different, as though there were roughly 1/3 of all the 168 combat clashes that were recorded in the past 24 hours to be found in this sector alone. There's still been no changes noted on this front today, or yesterday, or even the first day of the month, which is the official commencement of Russia's summer offensive campaigns. And for this front, somewhat surprisingly, even the most western flanks of the former Russian offensive gains beyond the highway remain unchanged up until now. Surely a very fluid frontline map, nonetheless certainly a tough spot for any invading army or horde to be in, with the AFU consistently utilizing drone dominance to the tune of around 20 kilometers radius from the front. Then headed across to the adjacent Zaporizhia Oblast, as a large number of Ukrainian drones have been recorded in the area between Tokmak, Melitopol, and even Berdyansk. Near Tokmak, large fires have been recorded. A Russian ammunition depot is also reportedly ablaze and exploding. I love me some secondaries. Then taking a look around the map to the unique, the wacky, the weird, and even sometimes the wonderful. As seen in this example, footage of a Ukrainian FPV drone intercepting a Russian UAV flying a Soviet victory banner. Such irony. Then headed across to the news, and as for a catch-up on yesterday's Istanbul bilateral meeting, as talks between Ukraine and Russia collapsed into a farce, as Moscow rolled out its latest list of demands, painting a picture of negotiations with all of the subtlety of a stage-managed show. Ukrainian Defense Minister Umerov slammed the process, calling out Russia for stalling and refusing to engage in real compromise, with Russia handing over its peace memorandum only as the talks began, ensuring any real progress was dead on arrival. As for the Kremlin's peace terms, they are a veritable wish list for domination, where Ukraine must withdraw from all parts of Donetsk, Luhansk, Kherson, and Zaporizhia, surrendering 1.3 million people and its best defenses. In return for a ceasefire, Russia wants international recognition of its land grabs, strict limits on the Ukrainian army, a ban on all foreign military presence, permanent neutrality, unless it involves Russia, right? And even for the Russian language to be made an official state language in Ukraine as a whole, not just the occupied regions. Now, of course, a lot of these demands set the stage for a future invasion of a Russian indoctrinated Ukrainian population. Additionally, Western sanctions would have to vanish and Ukraine would have to give up its right to seek reparations for the destructions wrought by war. Of this event, negotiators reached only a narrow deal, and one not relating to peace, but once again relating to the benefit of Russia in agreeing to exchange prisoners and the bodies of fallen soldiers on a 6,000 for 6,000 basis. But Russia's real agenda was clear, as the demands reveal the Kremlin isn't interested in anything close to a ceasefire, let alone peace, only in prolonging the war and reshaping Ukraine to its liking. The mood among Russian negotiators was notably less triumphant than in previous rounds, perhaps in light of recent Ukrainian military operations inside of Russia. Overall, what we saw from yesterday was once again all part of the classic Kremlin playbook. Drag out the process, posture as the reasonable party, and try to shift blame for any failure to adhere to their demands. But the world's seen this script before, and surely fewer and fewer will be buying the tickets to this theater Kremlin show anymore. Meanwhile, President Zelensky says he's ready to meet with Putin and Trump in Turkey. That would be nice to see, but very unlikely, as it would really be putting Putin out of his comfort zone. As such, Zelensky should constantly be calling for a direct talk with Putin every day of the week, until the Kremlin Top Gun accepts. And all in the meanwhile avoiding it and showing his true intentions when it comes to peace. Then to finish off the video today with something a bit different, and as it relates to these Istanbul talks, where during one such part of Zelensky's response to the recent lackluster talks in the name of peace, he addressed Russian claims that Ukraine somehow threatened their Russian delegation. That is to say, their third-tier Russian delegation. Now, Zelensky didn't explain how these threats were supposedly made. He just said that the Russians are making the claim, where he found it a bit odd and even a bit theatrical. Ultimately, Zelensky summed up the talks with a shrug to say, "It is what it is, it's hopeless," quote-unquote, then left things hanging with an ominous hint stating, quote, "We'll see, maybe we need a couple more measures," suggesting that the AFU, the SBU, and other special operations divisions might have other ways of persuading Russia to come to the peace table in a more genuine manner. So that's it for today, guys. Thanks again for watching. Please continue to like, comment, and I do hope to see all of you guys there in the next one. Cheers!